going to be wild. Let's take a look. The Origins of Bikers, starring Tom Hardy and Elvis Oscar nominee Austin Butler. We'll catch up with them. And then, how did James Patterson, author of some of the most prolific books turned to movies, co-author a book with Jurassic Park author Michael Crichton, decades after Michael Crichton's passing? We got lots of questions. We'll get answers as he joins us for a chat. Patterson, that is, and for the Exorcism. Truly going back to the Exorcist evil roots in a super creepy way. That and more as we take a look!
Okay, hold on. Big dramatic entrance coming. Woo!
Mark.
Oh, yeah.
What's with
Nothing like the wind in your hair to make you feel
No.
like a rebel.
It's not
Free.
a bicycle movie. It's about motorcycles, you know, like with engines.
I saw the movie. I know what we're talking about.
What is this?
You don't know what HR hell I've been through before.
What
I tried
happened?
to get a motorcycle to run in here, but I ran it up to the HQ.
Yeah.
And they absolutely said, hands down, not going to
Because of
happen.
your record of injuries, broken bones.
That's
I could
the
go
first thing I
on
said.
and on and
Have you
on.
seen my mini awry TV stunts? And they said, no, we're worried about the set.
Yeah, probably best, to be honest, knowing you, no offense. Let's leave it to the professionals, Tom Hardy and Austin Butler.
Yeah, LCDs ain't cheap, so I
No.
get you, HR. It's okay.
Yeah.
No problem there. Let's talk about this movie. For all of you rebels, or at least people that want to know where the bike craze started, where the very first motorcycle gang essentially happened, this is probably the best snapshot you're ever going to see. Sure, movies like a long list of previous movies
There's a lot of motorcycle
got
movies.
very close. This one, however, really takes you there.
Yeah, because it's based on an actual true writer from the 60s of this motorcycle gang, that it's based on a photo book, so it's based on true characters, which I love when they do that, when they add history with fiction. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great snapshot of the era, too. Talk to Austin Butler himself and J.D. Comer, who we should know through...
Killing Eve.
Yeah,
Hello, she was a psychopath in that.
and won an Emmy Award. We talk. Take a look.
I like your jacket.
Thank you. Like, normally I try to look like the last guy with the three-piece suit, but I thought,
No,
there's
this is
nothing
good.
legit about that. So I know, I've seen him on a bike, but how about you? Do you lean into the culture?
I lean into it in the sense of getting on the back of his. No, it's incredible. I mean, it's so enticing, and you look at this kind of subculture, and you look at it, and it's so cool, and the people are so authentic. So, like, to kind of embrace that whilst filming. I mean, I'm like my character Kathy, and that's oh my god,
My kid.
I'm like my character. Sorry.
That's okay.
Don't make this mess. I'm like my character Kathy in that sense, and that she wasn't a part of this world, and she kind of got swept up into it. So that was kind of fun to have that in common.
Every now and then we see movies as critics that we know are a snapshot of a culture and a time that are going to last forever. Like, I'm sure when people saw Easy Rider for the first time, they said, this is going to be around forever. People will be talking about this for generations.
Wow.
And this is the same. Did you feel it going into it? Did you know it when you read the words? Did you know it when you were on the day?
I don't feel like I ever know, but I feel that what I did know is that Jeff Nichols is incredibly passionate about the story, and he's an amazing filmmaker. I was a huge fan of his, so I had such confidence in him. And then every department head that he brought together just imbues you with a deeper sense of confidence in the integrity of it. It made me feel very confident.
Yeah, his signature is definitely on this. I remember talking to him for something else when he was on pre-production for this, and he said that he just played like a sample of audio of the character that the real life person that your character is inspired by. And he said within days, you gave him back a sample that sounded one and the same, that you inhabited the character that quickly. And I know voice work is so boring to talk about, but my God, did you nail the voice?
I just loved her. I was like, as soon as I heard her, I was like, one, I'm gonna have to start this now because it's like what, 2 months away, and this is a lot of work. But yeah, I was so inspired and invigorated by the opportunity and wanting to like encapsulate this time and her. So I jumped right on it.
Everybody needs to see this movie. If you were talking to somebody, let's say you're not even in this movie, but you just saw it, you would tell someone, see Bikeriders because
It's a great film.
Yeah, ultimately that's what I come back to.
It's got such an energy to it. Like I watched it for the first time in I think New York last year, and Jeff put a screening on and quietly left the room and just like left me in there. And I was kind of like fizzing afterwards. Like I left feeling so kind of energized, and I think because it's an incredible ensemble piece, it's like visually very stunning, and it's like the perfect film to see in a cinema.
She is phenomenal. The way she adapted that mid-American 1955 voice, which, I mean, how would she even have a record of doing this? She did such a nice job.
Yeah, she did an amazing job. And you know who else always does amazing is Michael Shannon. And he has a long-standing relationship with director Jeff Nichols. And you know Michael Shannon, you've interviewed him, I've interviewed him. He's a man of few words, not like us.
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, exactly. Michael Shannon's tough to talk to. His character in this movie, I'm afraid, is really close to Michael Shannon.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm glad you brought that up, because I never do research before I do the interviews. I want them to be real and like come from, a neutral place.
You do a
However,
great job.
I knew the Michael Shannon thing before I asked this question of Jeff Nichols. Take a look.
We got to talk about the ace in the deck that you have, Michael Shannon. Yeah. From the moment we see him, from the utterance, I don't even think it's a line. I think he just kind of grunts something the moment we see him.
Yeah. There's actually, even before that shot you're talking about, there's a moment in the bar that he walks up behind Jodie Comer's character and just takes a sip of his beer, and immediately like, there's Michael Shannon. I've been really lucky in my career. He's been in all 6 of my films. I consider him a brother. And you know, anytime you start with Michael Shannon, you're starting from a good place, because he's not going to phone it in, and he's not going to let it feel fake. And so having Mike around kind of set the bar.
Absolutely. Michael Shannon is great in this. Everybody who walks in. Tom Hardy, I mean, don't get me wrong, he's good in it, but Austin Butler carries this movie. He is no doubt a leading man for many more movies to come.
Yeah, it just so happens that they picked the perfect casting for this movie, and Austin Butler, we already know he's a superstar. So when he's on screen, he's on screen. That's all you see.
Absolutely. And I know I preach, but see this on a big screen because Jeff Nichols knows how to make a movie that should be seen on a big screen. If you see his movie Mud on a small screen, you will weep openly that you didn't get to see that on the big screen. You should.
All his movies, the cinematography is outstanding on the big screen. Agreed.
All right, coming up next, it's a little bit of a segue. Normally, speaking of screens, we talk about big and small, but coming up next, I want to talk about a book.
But we should have called this Take a Read, not Take a Look.
All right, you settle down.
You read books?
It's got something to do with movies.
He
Two
reads?
of America's most prolific authors, one of which is now deceased, eerily came together after death to make a new book that will indeed be a movie. We'll talk to James Patterson about it next. Hey, welcome back to Take a Look. My name is Marquez Allen. This is travel blogger and stuff blogger Kelly Savannah Deaton. Find her on Instagram at Kelly Savannah Deaton. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right, so we're taking a little bit of a segue I never thought we would do on this show. We're going to talk to authors about books.
Do you read? I have to ask.
Do I know how to read?
No, I didn't say that. I meant that, but I didn't say it.
All right.
Do you read?
I do okay. Look, I'm a simpleton, and I'll read if there's a movie that inspires a book, like I did that with Curious George. I did that with Green Eggs and Ham. Now, truth be told, 1975, I was a 10-year-old kid, and I read Jaws, the book, in anticipation of the movie.
All right, respect.
All right, and the reason we're talking about this, 2 of the world's most prolific writers whose books have been turned into movies are now collaborating, despite that one has no longer been with us for about 15 years. I'm talking about Michael Crichton, the author of Jurassic Park, but first of all, James Patterson. Like, you know the movie Kiss the Girls, right?
Yes, 1997. Morgan Freeman, Ashley Judd. Who doesn't know that movie?
Yeah, or Along Came a Spider, or Alex Cross. This guy made his print on books that went into movie format, and series for that matter, better than most. All right, segue to Michael Crichton. Of course you know Michael Crichton from Jurassic Park, which begat Jurassic World and beyond, right?
Yep, huge franchise. The biggest franchise, one could argue.
And once they found out it was being made into a Steven Spielberg film, the book doubled its sales. It's just weird how the synergy between books and movies work. Regardless, Michael Crichton's wife, when transporting their home and unpacking most of his stuff, he had passed away, found a manuscript for a book that hadn't been finished. She reached out to Michael Crichton's good friend, James Patterson, and said, will you complete this book?
That's an amazing story because you have 2 very different writers coming together to make this one cohesive, great story. I love when stuff like this happens.
It's really amazing. And to read the book has to be a movie. What is the book? We talk about it here. Take a look.
brings me such joy to see the two of you together to talk about this book and the fact that it happened. So somebody tell me how this amazing miracle happened.
Well, let me tell you. So I knew that Michael was always working on this passion project of his. It was about volcanoes. He had been thinking about volcanoes, I found out, since he was 14 years old. When I found this partial manuscript a couple of years after Michael had passed away, it was chills through my body because this was the book he had been working on. And I couldn't believe that I had a piece of Michael that he had left behind, and it was so riveting. The story was so fantastic. The characters, the essence of Hawaii, his love of volcanoes, and then it came, unfortunately, to an abrupt end. And it took me a long time to find all the pieces of the puzzle, looking for the next chapters.
And Michael had done a lot of research, too.
Yes,
I mean, that was
for
part of
years.
it. When I got involved, and Sherry came to me, and there was the partial manuscript, but also an incredible amount of research, which was both wonderful and daunting.
It was daunting. I'm like, do you really want all the research? And Jim was like, bring it on.
Yeah, let's have it.
So
And here you go, boatload,
yeah, here.
wheelbarrows full of research coming.
Right, yeah.
When's the movie?
Well, we're going to let it dance around in people's imaginations long enough for us to get the sets together, our team together.
Yeah.
It will be there.
I guarantee you, mark my words, this is going to be a movie.
Oh.
So in the movie, Hawaii, the big island of Hawaii, is about to erupt and be destroyed. And it turns out the U.S. government has been hiding something under the island for a long time, and that's going to startle you way worse than losing Hawaii.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Is Jeff Goldblum going to be in this?
Yeah, because you have this weird crush on
It was my
Jeff
first
Goldblum.
ever crush in the 90s. My first ever crush, and still is, Jeff Goldblum.
Awesome.
Hall
We're going to
pass.
get her some therapy, throw some commercials down. When we come back, vampires. Vampires, they're just people.
That are dead people and suck people's blood. What do you
Well,
mean?
They got that going on, but specifically, this is an adorable vampire story everyone should see. This series, Reginald the Vampire. We'll take a look next. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us on this very special episode of Take a Look. I call it very special because, there's nothing really. It's just awesome. It's always special, right? Yeah, because Kelly Savannah Deaton's here. I always argue to talk about movies on this show, whereas Kelly Savannah Deaton says, why don't you talk about series? Well, you watch sci-fi. We're talking about what?
Reginald the Vampire.
Exactly. This is a vampire series unlike anything I've ever seen before. You think you've seen it every which way. Via True Blood, via
Vampire
Buffy.
Diaries.
Yes. Yeah, this is totally different.
Twilight, it
Hey.
goes on and on. But this is hilarious. This show has so much comedic timing with Jacob. It's amazing.
Yeah, he's
That's why
a
it's different.
lovable vampire, Reginald.
I know.
Jacob Italian is the guy who plays him. Where would we know him from?
Oh, a little tiny movie you guys may have heard of, Spider-Man. with Tom
Spider-Man's buddy.
Holland.
Last
Yep.
time I talked to him, I was in London with Zendaya and Tom Holland to chat with him about it. That time, he was the understudy. I mean, not the understudy, but certainly not the principal role.
wasn't the main
He
character.
wasn't the Spider-Man. This time, he is Reginald. We talked. Take a look.
How are you digging it now that you've gotten a rhythm in it?
It's really great. I love feeling useful for sure. That's a main thing, but also it's a great time just exploring different emotions with Reginald and really growing our story from the first season.
What I love about it, people that love vampires even will tell you that a lot of vampire content is trope. We've seen it before. It's grown tired. But
Yeah.
this is a whole new way of presenting that story of someone who's going through this. How would you explain it to people? You're next to someone on a plane and say, here's what's cool about my show.
I would say that we are very much a human show just based on the background of vampires. We sort of watch Reginald grow as a human being through being a vampire, ironically. And I think that's what makes us more relatable. And obviously because I don't look like a typical vampire and because we poke fun at a lot of tropes that are out there in vampire media. So I think those are sort of like our main differences.
See, he's such a good guy. I so love that he is the lead in this. He deserves it, and because of him, this character is so, again, heartwarming, despite the fact that we're talking about a vampire. Check it out on the Sci-Fi Network.
That is interesting. Heartwarming with a vampire doesn't really go, but he is so lovable. And this show, again, we're so used to talking about movies.
Yeah.
This TV series, you will laugh. It has so much heart. It's definitely worth watching.
My friends and I used to watch Twilight just to make fun of it, and I love that this vampire movie series series makes fun of itself. All right, let's get some caffeine going in us. When we come back, we're talking about something truly awesome and truly scary. Not making fun of the original Exorcist, actually going back to its roots like you've never seen before, for good reason. We'll talk with the cast and crew next. What's going on? Welcome back. It is Take a Look, where we talk about everything you should take a look at. Small screens, big screens, back to the big screens. You need to see The Exorcism in the biggest way possible.
No, these movies scare me so much. Anything with demonic possession is not okay.
Yeah, it's weird. You don't mind horror as long as it doesn't border on demonic possession.
I love horror. I'm going to go see this for sure. I mean, I already...
Yeah, I've said on this show a billion times, look how nervous you are, that I love The Exorcist, the original. Well, this one has direct roots to it.
Yes,
All right,
yes.
so Joshua Miller is the writer-director of this movie. His dad was Jason Miller, the priest that jumps out of the window in the original Exorcist.
Yes, and how do you see that as a kid and then think, I'm going to grow up and make another Exorcism movie?
If we could go back on camera, I see you pop in because we mentioned your name. The creator-director of this show is also Jason Miller. Big round of applause. Now, back on topic. The Jason Miller that's the director of this, Joshua Miller, his son, is the director, writer of this, and M.A. Fortin co-wrote it. They've collaborated together a million times. Obviously has deep roots in it, and the best thing about this is that it's a demonic movie being made and a movie about that demonic movie.
It is. It's a movie within a movie, and it has a lot of other tropes that you don't normally see in horror movies, like the father-daughter relationship that a lot of people aren't going to be drawn to. So it's not just straight horror. It's like a deep character development study, and some scary...
Doesn't dampen the scary. I talked to the duo about it. Look.
You guys, the movie is so amazing. Have you had a chance to see it with a test audience or a legit audience yet?
No, I'm too terrified. No.
Like seeing the reaction when you see The Exorcist, people in the front row jump to the second and beyond. It causes a ripple. There's so many scenes in this equally as effective.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, look, we didn't ever try to compete with the original because the original is the gold standard. You can't touch it. Why even try? So we tried to do a meta movie that hopefully would feel adjacent to it and kind of a love letter to the original, and that was that.
Like you said, it's a love letter to the film in a sense, but you know, I had my own Catholic damage to bring to the table.
Nothing leans into more passionate filmmaking than Damage, be it Catholic or any other kind.
Preach.
I mean, it's really the only way. I don't understand why anyone would make any movie for any other reason. I mean, other than not that you're hoping to have a catharsis or somehow profound effect at the other end of something like this, but I mean, but there is something purging when you're able to like take, okay, there's this issue I'm obsessed with and this problem, and you know, you hope to purge something.
Yeah, or I have this bone to pick, you know.
Yeah, this movie was definitely made out of rage.
Yep.
And it shows. You know, people always say, you know, you have rotating co-hosts on the show, and it's because I like different voices on the show. And here's a great example of why. Because when I say Adam Goldberg, I'm going to go, oh, he was great in Saving Private Ryan. However, you say Adam Goldberg and...
Okay, everyone has seen How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days with Kate Hudson, Matthew McConaughey. He's the best friend, the funny guy. Come on. See? Everyone knows. Everyone at home, you know that you've seen that movie.
Maybe you did. Regardless, we talked. Take a look.
This character you play, not a very nice guy, which typically doesn't bode well by the third act of any of these movies.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I know. He's definitely, I guess, the sort of prototypical antagonist, you know, to Russell's character. But, you know, doing it in a way which I think would be relatable probably for anybody who's had a horrible boss. I don't think you have to be in the film industry so much as you had to have been employed by someone who's, you know, really picks at your deepest wounds in order to sort of mine a performance, you know?
Yeah, I've been on sets, and I would guess maybe you too. I've been on sets with this guy before.
That's what a lot of crew members were telling me. You know, I've noticed that in many cases, the bigger the director you are, oftentimes, not always, but the kinder and more generous and the more, you know, sort of familial you actually are.
Often second unit directors, a lot of people down the food chain will say they don't mind working with first-time directors, but it's their second time.
Yeah, that sounds about right to me. That jives.
He's so good in this movie, and it takes a lot to hold your own against Academy Award winner Russell Crowe.
I know, and Russell Crowe's actually the one who asked him to be in this film.
And the director asked Russell Crowe to be in. No, actually, the director didn't want Russell Crowe in the film.
No, because of last year's Pope's Exorcism. He was in that as well.
And he thought people would identify it.
But now he likes that it brings up a conversation about the two different movies.
I've interviewed Russell Crowe. He drives the interview, trust me. Ryan Simpkins holds her own against all of them. She is amazing. They, them, and on her Instagram now identifies as her as well. We talk.
Yes.
Take a look.
Such an interesting character to play. I would imagine it's awesome to play a character that has so many layers like this, going through something so daunting. What was the best thing about her for you?
I mean, yeah, I love the layers. I only ever want to play a character with depth, She's really passionate and headstrong and not afraid to speak her mind. And I think she's really relatable to me, at least for that reason. But there's also a tragedy to her, and this, she comes from a place of betrayal with her father, I feel like. She really is hoping for this relationship that has time and time again failed her, and she really wants it to work.
Yeah, I always tell people, I think that horror suspense is always better with heart, and there's such heart at the core of this.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you need that grounded center to have a point of relation so that you buy into the scares of it.
You talked about Russell Crowe. I really think this kid's going places. I think he's got talent.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't want to jump, Kirsty.
Ryan Simpkins, Russell Crowe's daughter in the movie The Exorcism. See it on the biggest screen possible, now playing. Kelly Samantha Deaton, thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Always.
Yeah, another edition of Take a Look. We'll see you next time.